good morning to all those who are already with us in the room. It's exactly 10 o'clock, so we need to give some time to other participants to join. Maybe we slowly start our webinar on measuring socially responsible public procurement. This webinar is being organized within the framework of projects that has been commissioned by the European Commission, namely the agency EISMEA. And for today, if Claudio could kindly go to the next slide.
Julia, if you can go to the next slide, please.
Yes. Thank you. So I think that most of you are already acquainted with the rules of webinars and online meetings. So we have everyone is unmuted for the webinar. In case you would like to speak, you will have to unmute yourself. If you want to join and activate your camera, please use your best smile. And there is also a button to do that. Please be aware that we are recording this meeting and that we will capture your video in case you decide to connect your camera. And in case you would like to use the chat function, it's here on the right side of the screen. And you can ask questions, and we will try to go through the questions while we are also presenting. So if you would not like to be recorded or that your audio is also captured, please be aware that this webinar is being recorded, and if you would not like this to happen, then you should not unmute and start your camera. So what is the agenda for today? We will have first a welcome and introduction by our colleague Lois Pimentel-Iglesias. Then we will explain what is the purpose and what are the objectives of the study on measuring social impact in public procurement. Then we will particularly zoom into an analytical and evaluation framework that we developed within the scope of this study. And we will also take the opportunity to share with you some successful examples of applying socially responsible public procurement. And to this end, we have invited the owners, well, the people who have been implementing these practices, particularly from Cyprus and in France. Both these sessions will be followed by questions and answers so that you can ask all your questions and we will do our best to provide an answer. After these, we will also share with you the recommendations that we provided based on the insights and the findings from this study for developing social impact measurement policies in public procurement. And at the end, we will have concluding remarks by Lois. So with no further delay, I will give the floor to Lois so that he welcomes everyone to this to this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I hope that you can hear me well. Yes. Great. So, well, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining this webinar on socially responsible public procurement. My name is Lois, and I work at the European Commission with the Director General for Internal Market, Industry and Entrepreneurship at SMEs, and particularly in the unit in charge of social economy. So just I would like to start to give you an overview of why at the Commission we decided to carry out this project and to focus on socially responsible public procurement. Well, and the main reason is that in 2021, we launched this social economy action plan that is a roadmap to support the social economy sector with concrete measures both at national and European levels until 2030. And precisely one of these measures was related to promote a better access to markets for social economy entities. So that's why we thought that through socially responsible public procurement, that's one way in which social economy entities can access public markets, right? And particularly interesting is that public procurement represents the 14% of the European Union gross domestic product. So that means that we have there a very important quantity of money that each year is spent by local, regional, national authorities. And we are trying to promote this shift from a more, let's say, bureaucratic and legal task of public procurement to try to shift the focus to use and see public procurement as a strategic policy tool to promote goals such as social goals in this case, but also green or innovation goals. And this is also very timely, because we are soon expecting a new College of Commissioners to take office, and it has been announced that there will be a revision of the European Directives of Public Procurement. So it's also a great opportunity to see how to improve the social provisions in the EU legal framework. So if we continue to the next slide. So we are basically doing 3 projects at the same time on socially responsible public procurement. One of them is trainings that some of you know. We are doing trainings in a total of 12 member states for public buyers and social economy entities. So basically, these trainings are set and are tailored to the specific needs of each member state to try to boost the socially responsible public procurement. To that end, to prepare these trainings and to tailor these sessions to the specific needs of each country, there is an online first meeting with legal experts and experts in public procurement. And afterwards, there is a physical training, and then there is a follow-up meeting to agree on suggestions, mainly at the national, but also regional level, local level, and EU levels. And within this project, there is also a communication campaign where there are several let's say, several tasks going on there. But one is these testimonial videos that show good examples of socially responsible public procurement practices. So far, we have 3 videos that are on the EISMEA YouTube channel, showcasing great examples from Spain, Belgium, and France, but we will also publish one from Ireland and one from Bulgaria. The second part of the project is the one that we are doing here today, and it's about measuring the social impact of public procurement. And about this, I will not talk that much because you will for sure have a great introduction about this project in a minute. And the third, we are also doing an internal evaluation at the European Commission. This was also part of the Social Economy Action Plan to try to see how we at the Commission, because we are also public buyers, right? So how to see to what extent we also include social considerations and how we could we further improve this. So if we go to the next slide, we will see the objectives for today's session. And there are basically these 3. first present this new analytical framework that has been created under, as I said, this project 2, let's say, in order to capture the social impact of public procurement. And this will give us also like, let's say, a framework also to think about social provisions and where maybe this could be included and from what angles. Then we will have 2 speakers from Cyprus and from France to share interesting examples of socially responsible practices, procurement practices. And the main goal is also, of course, facilitate the exchange of good practices and enhance the implementation of SRPP across Europe. So without further delay, I give you the floor back.
Thank you very much. So now we will tell you a little bit more about this study on measuring social impact in public procurement. If we go to the next slide. So as the title of the project indicates, the main goal of this study is to develop a better understanding of current socially responsible public procurement practices, and particularly impact measurement approaches and methodologies across the European Union. This is a study that is going on since September 2023, and it will finish by March 2025. So we are really on the last mile of this study. So more specifically, what have we been tasked to do? The purpose is to deepen knowledge on social impact measurement in public procurement across the European Union, to collect information on policies, methodologies, and guidelines in selected EU member states, to analyze social impacts of concrete socially responsible public procurement cases across the EU, to create content to promote dialogue on social investments among SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises and public authorities, and finally to offer recommendations for developing social impact measurement in public procurement. Throughout this study, we have engaged with several stakeholders, namely public authorities and particularly public procurement authorities in EU member states. But we have also involved public procurement experts from administrations, non-governmental organizations, as well as the academia. If we go to the next slide, we will also guide you through the different activities that we have conducted. The first task of this project was about a mapping exercise in which we identified approaches to measuring social impact in public procurement. So the purpose of this study was really to focus on social impact measurement. Although as part of this mapping exercise, we also felt that it was necessary to understand better what is the legal and policy framework around socially responsible public procurement. As you can see here, we focused on 12 specific countries, and these were France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Poland, Romania, Spain, and Sweden, which were selected based on a set of criteria that we have agreed with the contracting authority. This entailed desk research that we have conducted in English and also in the languages of each of the selected countries. And it was complemented also with interviews with more than 20 competent authorities and procurement bodies that are involved and that are responsible for the approaches that we have identified. The result of this activity was an overview of common approaches and challenges across the EU in terms of social impact measurement. The second task of the study was the development of an analytical framework to measure social impact in public procurement. So we built on the results of the mapping exercise that we have undertaken. We also conducted complementary desk research on mechanisms and techniques to measure social impact of public procurement, because we also wanted to see if there are other approaches that are being used at international level and also in other EU countries that we could take inspiration from to be able to develop this analytical framework. In addition to this complementary desk research, we have also organized a workshop with public procurement experts to validate the approach that we have co-defined. The result of this exercise was an analytical framework for measuring SRPP impact, with 4 indicators and 10 sub-indicators that we will soon see when my colleagues will dive into the presentation of the analytical framework. To be able to check whether the analytical framework that we developed is fit for purpose and easy to use, we have tested it, and we have conducted an analytical exercise across all EU member states. To this end, we have selected a sample of 75 public procurement procedures across the EU. So we have analyzed public procurement procedures across all the 27 EU member states. To that end, we have analyzed thoroughly documentation that has been retrieved through desk research that was publicly available, but we have also consulted the authorities that were responsible for these procedures to collect additional information. The result of this exercise was an analysis and an assessment of social impact of 75 public procurement procedures based on the analytical framework that we developed within the scope of this study. Finally, the last task of this project is about communication and awareness raising. And to this end, we have developed 4 infographics that explain how to conduct the measurement of social impact in public procurement. And they also share inspirational examples that you can go through and try to implement in your own context at a national, regional, or local level to measure social impact in public procurement. In addition to this, we have also developed a video that you will see firsthand. Today is the first time that we are showcasing this video, so you are the lucky ones to see it for the first time. And we are also organizing 2 webinars, one of which that you are already attending today, and the second one will take place on the 5th of December. So we know, I think that the next slide is for Claudio to dive into the analytical framework that we developed. So Claudio, up to you.
Yeah, thank you, Caterina. Yeah, it will be me and Julian going through the analytical framework and then some findings of the analysis. So I will pass the floor to Julian, then I will take over for describing a bit more in depth the concrete findings of our analysis.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Claudio and Caterina, for that introduction. So it is my pleasure to introduce you with a bit more in detailed look at the analytical and evaluation framework that we developed. So as Caterina has already described, we aim to conceptualize an analytical framework that measures the social impact of public procurement. So what this means in practice is that the primary objective of the analytical framework was to provide a tool that can measure social impact of public procurement in relation to a public procurement procedure, but also at organizational or member state level. In addition, it aims to offer public procurers a flexible and set of indicators that can be tailored to specific procurement contexts, thereby enhancing the social outcomes of their public procurement activities. So for this reason, we ended up designing flexible indicators that could be adapted to specific contexts. These indicators can help enhance social outcomes by being tailored to the unique needs and circumstances of, for example, the region or public authority that is using them. So in order to test this analytical framework, we also developed some research objectives. So using the framework indicators, we aim to better understand how these procedures can contribute to social goals. So we analyze procurement processes to assess the depth and comprehensiveness of their social impact. It was also crucial for us to identify and highlight good practices, to understand the current benchmarks, and to ensure that we could conduct some knowledge sharing. We also, through that, identified key enablers and hindering factors for measuring social impact in public procurement. And finally, we aim to provide policy recommendations for EU-wide adoption to improve social considerations in public procurement. So moving forward to the next slide. We see here the social impact indicators that we developed. So as you can see here, we included 4 flexible indicators. Under the umbrella of each, sub-indicators were incorporated. They are therefore broken down into sub-indicators, allowing for a detailed examination of the dimensions under which the social considerations are realized. So I will now walk you through the 4 different indicators that we selected and developed. So for indicator 1, this indicator really evaluates public procurement procedures based on their impact on employment, skill development, and inclusivity. So if you see, you have the sub-indicators here. So employment opportunities created, it measures the number of jobs generated through the procurement activities. The skills development assesses the training and skills opportunities provided to employees. The inclusion of disadvantaged groups evaluates the efforts to include marginalized or disadvantaged groups in employment opportunities. And then the compliance with standards and certifications, it really aims to ensure the adherence to relevant standards and certifications to make sure that these are being met. So moving forward to indicator 2, this one is encouraging decent working conditions. So the indicator evaluates the quality of employment contracts, job security, fair wages, safety, non-discrimination, grievance mechanisms, and procurement practices. And for that, the sub-indicators are employment status, which really assesses the stability and security of the employment contracts. And then fair working conditions, which evaluates the fairness of the wages, working hours, and the overall working conditions. Moving forward, we come to indicator 3, which is the supporting accessibility and design and for all. So this indicator assesses the procurement procedures for compliance with accessibility standards, universal design principles, and the use of assistive technologies. So for the first one, it evaluates the established accessibility standards. For the second sub-indicator, we have inclusive design and accommodation, and this measures the extent to which it is being the universal design principles and accommodations for individuals with disabilities is being included. Then moving forward to the last indicator, which is promoting sustainability practice. This really evaluates corporate sustainability efforts and supply chain fairness, including ethical sourcing and supplier treatment. So corporate sustainability due diligence, there's also, of course, the link to the regulation there. And this assesses the diligence of companies in implementing sustainable practices. And then for fair supply chain, it evaluates the fairness and ethical treatment of suppliers within the supply chain. So just to conclude on these 4 indicators, really, as you can see there, they have been designed to provide a comprehensive framework for assessing the social outcomes of public procurement activities. They can use these public procurement authorities can use these indicators to integrate social considerations into their procurement procedures effectively. And they also provide a basis for monitoring and evaluating the social impact of procurement activities. So they can be incorporated. Of course, we also analyze these indicators based on the 75 procurement procedures, as Katerina outlined, and we were able to extrapolate some interesting findings. So for that, I will hand over the floor to my colleague Claudio, who will walk you through the main findings of our research.
Yes, thank you, Julia. And welcome to all the participants. I will guide you through some slides that summarize the findings of our analysis. So you can go to the next slide, Julia. Yeah, so let's dive into the main findings, and we can start with the impact levels of the identified public procurement procedures that we analyzed. So our analysis basically categorizes procedures into 5 distinct impact levels, from non-impactful to transformative, passing through low impact, moderate impact, and high impact. And basically this categorization was prepared in order to understand the effectiveness and the reach of each procurement procedure when it comes to driving social social impact. And from our data, we observe that the majority of the procurement procedures that we analyze fall into the low or moderate impact category. So specifically, we have 31 procedures classified as low impact and 28 as moderate impact. And this indicates that indeed there are many procedures that are making that are producing impact, that are making a difference when it comes to social aspects, but the extent of their impact varies, and we could say that on average, at least according to our framework, the impact is moderate. And yeah, interestingly, fewer procedures achieve, let's say, higher level of impact. We only found 4 procedures that could be categorized as transformative. And so, let's say, the main finding behind this chart is that indeed there is progress in socially responsible public procurement, but there is significant room for improvement to increase, let's say, this average performance level from to high impact or transformative categories. But please consider that our analysis is based on a smaller sample, which is not meant to be representative of the entire public procurement market. But in any case, these are findings that can provide some good food for thought and inspire some further reasoning also in your own countries. Moving to the next chart, we can take a look at the impact level of the different types of purchases. And basically, our findings indicate that so we analyzed the procurement procedure across types of contracts, so supplies, services, or work, or also mixed contract that involve supplies and services. And once again, please consider that these are findings that are connected to a small sample, but can be insightful in any case. And so our findings indicate that services as a category normally have a consistent level of moderate social impact. And this suggests that often when it comes to service-related procurement procedures, this incorporates socially responsible practices, which produce a good level of social impact. On the other hand, if we look at other procedures, such as mixed purchases, for instance, we observe more variability. And of course, this variability changes and differs across the different clusters. But let's say the main outcome of this slide is basically to reinforce the earlier finding that we presented previously, that is basically to indicate that while can observe some impact in socially responsible public procurement, there is definitely some room for improvement. Moving to the next slide, this one is interesting because it analyzes the impact level across the different levels of public sector administration, from national to regional and local. And starting from the national level, we observe that there are 11 out of 24 procurement procedures that are categorized as low impact, which means that around half of the procurement procedures that we had identified and analyzed that were conducted at national level are delivering, let's say, some impact, but not at the level of being classified as highly impactful or transformative. Moving to the regional level, we see probably a more balanced distribution of the impact. This might suggest, but again, consider that this is a limited sample we analyze. This might suggest that procurement procedures that are conducted maybe at the regional or even local level could have a stronger impact when it comes to socially responsible public procurement, or there might be at least a stronger focus on socially responsible aspects. And when it comes to local level, we see that the majority are distributed between moderate and low impact. Specifically, we have 18 procedures that are moderate impact and 15 that are low impact. However, we can also see that we also identified some high impact and transformative social impact procurement procedure also for national and regional procurement procedures. So we could say that the bulk of the procurement procedures analyzed for the different levels of public administration fall under the low and moderate impact, but we could also find interesting example of higher impact and transformative impact for all the levels of public administration. Going to the next slide, there are two interesting charts that are basically related to the indicators that Julia was describing before. If we start with the chart on the left, this chart basically illustrates the extent to which the different social responsibility indicators are covered across the analyzed procurement procedure. So we can clearly find that the first indicator, so promoting employment opportunities and social inclusion, is very well represented. As well as employment opportunities and social inclusion, encouraging decent working conditions, while the accessibility and design for all one is probably the one that is less represented and probably on which procurement authorities focus the less, again, across the sample that we analyzed. While if we move, and this chart basically focuses on at numerical level, so how many times across the procurement procedures sample that we analyzed, each indicator was touched and it was included in the desired social impacts. If we go to the chart on the right, this one focuses more on the impact score that we assigned to each procurement procedure for each indicator. Of course, we developed a specific scale for this purpose, and here we can see that basically encouraging decent working conditions on average was the indicator that was producing the highest impact, let's say, or for which when it was included in the procurement procedure that we analyzed, it was better detailed or conditions were more clear, and so the impact was better described. While at least from our analysis, when it comes to promoting sustainable practices, this one was the indicator that has shown the wider margin for improvement, let's say. And this is interesting because kind of reinforcing what we were saying before, so that there are dimensions where public procurements are already quite careful, are already trying to include these social dimensions in public procurement and trying to produce a social impact in these social dimensions. There are others that are included in public procurement practices, but probably there is more work to be done, let's say, or there could be more improvement on the procurement side to try to have a stronger impact on those social categories. So if we go to the next slide, we have some main takeaways from this entire activity. So basically here we have to summarize what we said. So let's say on the left side, so on the maturity insights, we see that there is definitely potential for SRPP to drive transformative social impacts. And of course, the consistent application of detailed and ambitious social requirements can significantly enhance SRPP effectiveness. But of course, this process should be continuously supported, and SRPP practices should be, let's say, fostered, okay, to achieve broader social objectives. And this is basically reinforced by the analysis that I was describing before. So we see that the majority of the procedures of our sample that we analyze have a lower moderate impact, and so there is margin for improvement under the point of view. We see there are some indicators or social dimensions that are more covered, such as employment and social inclusion, but others are less promoted. And then we can see that, and this is related basically to the high social impact that was observed in promoting decent working conditions, while the sustainable practices present the largest margin for improvement. And so, at more general level, we can derive some takeaways also on the relevance of this framework, because it was a first attempt to have a structured approach to measure the impact and the social performance, let's say, of public procurement procedures. So this framework provides a tool for assessing the social impact in public procurement and to derive interesting insights when it comes to SRPP trends, and can represent a way to enhance the ability to align public procurement with broader social and environmental goals, or at least keep track of that. Of course, there are some challenges and limitations, as in every study. For instance, we encounter difficulty in obtaining comprehensive documentation and accurate contact information, also to reach out to the public procurement authorities to receive further detail. And so this kind of suggests that there is also the need for improved data sharing protocols and data quality requirements. And then, as I was saying multiple times before, the analysis is based on a small sample, and so these findings provide interesting insights, but have to be taken with caution. And so probably in the future, other studies might be able to analyze a wider sample of procurement procedures, possibly through the more, let's say, advanced data analysis tools. But of course, if the quality of the data is sufficient in order to provide all the information needed for the analysis. We try to condense all of this work in a few slides. I hope that these numbers were interesting, and these takeaways were providing some good food for thought. And I conclude here my presentation. I pass the floor to. We can go to next slide, and I give you the floor if you want to raise some questions.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Julia and Claudio, for introducing us the framework, and also to share with the audience our findings from testing the framework. So now, as Claudio was saying, we open the floor to some questions and answers. You can either post them on chat or unmute yourself to ask them directly to us. Are there any questions that we can try to answer? So we have a sample of 75 public procurement procedures. We started with a sample of 81 procedures, and then we, after carefully analyzing the procedures, we had to remove some of them because they were not really reflecting on socially responsible public procurement. We identified these procedures through the tenders electronic daily from which is a supplement of the official journal of the EU. And unfortunately, we do not have the same number of procedures per member state because while some member states may be more advanced in the use of socially responsible public procurement, others are still making their progress towards the end. So there are some countries where we only have one procedure, whereas others we have up to 5. Maybe this one you can take, Claudio.
Yeah, we're receiving many questions in chat. Let's try to answer as many as possible.
So how did you define the categories high or transformative, and what did it need for a procedure analyzed to end up in these categories? Yeah. So we have a matrix that we developed to be able to assess all the procedures. But okay, I will give the floor to my colleague Claudio so that he can respond to this question.
Yeah. So basically, as we were saying before, we have this analytical framework with 4 indicators. Each indicator has a number of sub-indicators. So going through the information contained in the tender specifications, and then also in further information that we retrieved, also contacting the procurement authorities, we did a qualitative analysis of what was the impact of each procurement, and then according to our scale, we indicated whether an indicator was touched or not by the specific procurement procedure, and then assigned the score. And so for each indicator, when it was, let's say, touched by the procurement procedure because relevant, we derived the score and then an overall score for the entire procurement procedure. And so we had thresholds, let's say, and according to these thresholds, let's say a score that was in percentage on 75% of effectiveness, for instance, was falling under the high impact. Higher scores above 80 and 90 were labeled as transformative. So to summarize, we calculated according to our scale, the average impact score for each sub-indicator, each indicator, and then the result was a comprehensive score or total performance score. And depending on the overall score and the threshold each procurement procedure was falling in, we were assigning this label of high impact, impactful, or transformative.
We are receiving a lot of interesting questions, but we also need to be aware of the time, and I wouldn't like to take time from our guest speakers who are going to introduce us their practices. So maybe we can take one additional question, and then we take stock of all the questions and we try to respond them in writing, if that's okay for everyone. I'm checking.
I can take maybe the one from the TED database. How did you look for socially responsible practices? So TED allows to also through the advanced or expert search to select procurement procedures that are presenting strategic procurement that fall under the strategic procurement category, and to isolate for social criteria. And so we use that to try at least to identify the first sample. Unfortunately, the way in which data is filled in TED does not always allow to really derive all the information that we need. So in many cases, we reached out directly to the procurement authority to collect more information to conduct our analysis and substantiate our findings, let's say, our scoring. Yeah.
So apologies for not being able to answer all your questions, but as we said, we are going to collect them all. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them on the chat, and we will respond in writing. Because now we would like to give the floor to Patricios Timvios, I hope that I pronounced well your name, who is the head of the procurement office in the Cyprus Institute. So welcome to this session. After his presentation, we will also welcome Sandra Gilmi, who is a project manager for social and solidarity economy in the city and Euro metropolis of Strasbourg in France. Thank you very much for attending our webinar and to share your successful experiences in implementing SRPP. So I'll give now the floor to Patricios.
Kalimera. Good morning from Cyprus.
Kalimera.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today a socially responsible contract from Cyprus. It's a unique occasion, and it's coming together with a webinar, a seminar webinar we are having today here in Cyprus. I will analyze it a little bit later, but let's move on. Let's go to the next one. I will allow me first to start by saying a few words about my organization, the Cyprus Institute, which is a technologically oriented research and educational institution. The Institute mainly addresses challenges facing the island and the region. We are in a unique region here close to the Middle East. It is a non-profit institution advancing peace and prosperity using science, technology, and innovation. We are a rather small organization of around 300, 350 employees. So the Institute consists of 5 research centers, which capture mainly the big issues of the region. As I said before, we have the Energy, Environment, and Water Research Center, Science and Technology in Archaeology and Culture, Computational-Based Science, Climate and Atmosphere, and Science and Technology-Driven Policy in Innovation. So let's move on by reviewing the latest Sustainable Development Report, because we couldn't find more analytics. Cyprus is ranked in the 58th place among the countries which signed the UN Convention for the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And this is really highlighting the need for a careful implementation of a strategy and a stronger effort to advance progress in both sustainable and social development. If we see the next slide, and we look at the spillover score of Cyprus, which is the impact to the society, the negative or positive impact to the society, it shows us exactly that more effort is required towards this goal. We must focus to targeted actions for both, again, sustainable and social aspects. As I said before, at this very moment, we are on the second day of a training workshop on socially responsible public procurement. We have participants in this event from public authorities and social entities here in Cyprus. And this is this part of the European Commission contract, exactly training and awareness, raising activities in socially responsible public procurement. I must say, yesterday's event in Nicosia, the capital, was a great success with more than 65 attendance. Today we have around 40 people. Today I'm in Limassol, the second biggest town in Cyprus. And I took the chance to leave from the room to come here and present our case in front of you. So let's see our practical example from Cyprus. Let's move on. Our example concerns cleaning of our building facilities for a period of 3 years. We have 11 buildings with more or less internal area of 10 square meters. And beyond the environmental criteria, as you can see here, we try to equally emphasize our commitment to social responsibility. So through this tender, we assured mainly that the selected company follows three things: fair labor practices, equal opportunities, and full employee rights, which is very important, and this is coming out of the law. So we needed a verification. Verification was submitted, and a declaration, and the relevant justifications. We also ensure through this tender continuous attention to training, and we will look at it later on. And as part of our commitment to social responsibility, we agreed with the contractor to employ a number of political asylum seekers, contributing this way to their integration into our community. Currently, we have 6 cleaning workers as political asylum seekers. I was listening to our minister the other day. This right moment in Cyprus, 6% of the population are immigrants or political asylum seekers, and the 6% is a very high percentage. In Europe, this percentage right now is 1%. So this is an effective way of integrating a category of people into the society. Some more facts about this competition. It was a European competition published under the platform of TED last December. The contract value was more than 293,000. We gave also emphasis to the provision of cleaning products with eco-label. And of course, we have asked environmental management measures and practices through either the ISO 14001 or EMAS certification. We highlight, though, that the contract was awarded with 40% price and 60% considering social and environmental factors and services. And I highlight this because we can see that the trend in a lot of European countries having as lowest price the contract award in a very, very high percentage. Cyprus, in this moment, 91% of the contract awards is for lowest price, and we have to change this. Moving on to the next slide, I'm illustrating here exactly the evaluation criteria we have used. These three are mainly environmental sustainable criteria. We had the provision of the eco-label cleaning products, as I said before. In this, we have requested and evaluated only products that, among the list, you can see that bear the eco-label. We have evaluated the machines, the vacuum cleaners that they are being used, the proposals they have done through the offer, and about the environmental management measures and practices. Through these certifications, we wanted to evaluate companies that they really demonstrate a commitment on their organization, environmental, of course, performance, and their employees' well-being. And this is an effective way also to push the market to certify their organizations to improve working conditions. And because this competition was a repetition of a previous competition we have done a couple of years ago without social criteria, we could see this time that there were more companies that they have received these environmental management measures. Going to the fourth one, to the next slide, the staff training. The staff training for us was a key requirement. During the whole duration of the contract, we have requested to implement, we wanted from them to implement an internal staff training program, or at least provide the necessary means for their employees to participate in an external training program to cover the list of trainings we can see in our screen. Training about cleaning products, energy saving, saving water, waste management, health and safety practices. The contractor needed to ensure that all staff performing cleaning duties under the specific contract, that they receive appropriate training within 6 weeks of their employment. And additionally to this, the personnel should receive ongoing training once a year. And we even recommended that the initial training for the staff should be minimum 16 hours and the annual training at least for 6 hours. Adding to the above, the tenderer also received marks, and we can see here on item 4 in the bottom, item 4, in cases that they could provide justification that their existing staff has already received training in the requested topics. So we have evaluated previous trainings, and also we have evaluated the program that they have submitted for the future training of the staff. Training like this improves, of course, worker skills and knowledge. And this is true. And it also promotes professional development, improves the working quality, and reduces the risk of employees. The last one was the evaluation of staff and responsible coordinator, which we have requested that they should, for the economic operators, to submit at least 3 evaluation questionnaires. Each of these assessments should have met a number of requirements that which they were described in the tender documents. For example, to be similar buildings, academic institutions, the internal square meters of the buildings. And the aim of this criterion was to gather information from previous employers regarding the quality of the provided services. Mainly, we wanted to gather information about the ability of effective and professionally coordinating with the client, which is very important, and the project team, their own team, effectiveness dealing with problems professionally, level of satisfaction, of course, for the quality, willingness, and corporation, and any actions taken to improve the provided service. Overall, we feel that this evaluation criteria is pushing the suppliers to deliver quality service, treat their employees fairly, manage issues responsibly, and of course, keeps high standard that benefits our own institutional community. Going to the next slide, as expected, we face several challenges. I'm not saying difficulties, but I'm calling them really challenges during the implementation of this social criteria. And it's good to analyze them a bit because I'm sure that everybody is facing more or less all of these challenges. And first of all is the resistance to change. And I must say that shifting from traditional practices tends to make employees and of course stakeholders to be more conscious. And it's in our hands to change that. The high initial cost, sustainable and social criteria often involve high initial cost, often, not always, which strains budget and discourage approvals. It's very important. Lack of awareness and trainings. Without proper training, of course, it's difficult for the procurement teams to set socially responsible criteria. And this is why we have all over Europe these trainings now. I know that in parallel there is training in Malta, in Austria, in Bulgaria, and few other countries. So training is very important. Increased complexity and time. Everybody is complaining that it is challenging the time. They don't have a lot of time and resources, but we have to work with that. And something that involves mainly, I'm talking about the limited supplier options. I'm talking about small markets mainly, and especially in small countries like Cyprus. Finding suppliers to meet this kind of criteria is difficult. So we have to push the market to adopt more social and more environmental criteria so that we can implement more competitions. Then we have the suppliers' commitment. Without a big market, even the compliant suppliers may lack of genuine commitment. Measurement and monitoring, and this is very important what the webinar today measuring social impact accurately sometimes requires specialized tools and KPIs. And it's something that we are lacking right now. And I'm looking forward to see this study, how it will help us and how we can start measuring and monitoring this impact. And the last, communication and engagement, is very important to effectively be responsible. It requires a broader support and clear communication. And I'm finishing up with the last slide. The inclusion of social responsible criteria in this tender significantly, I must say, helped us to reinforce the Institute's commitment to sustainability and social equity. Quality aspects such as use of eco-label cleaning products, energy efficient equipment, and comprehensive staff training definitely ensure high quality of the service. In addition, it underlines the Institute's dedication to minimize the environmental and impact, and of course, it promotes fair labor practices. It's good to say that the chosen provider exemplified this commitment by employing asylum seekers and supporting them to integrate into the community. Concluding, this approach is not only improving the sustainability, but sets an example for how public procurement can drive social and environmental progress. And I really hope, potentially, this could encourage other organizations here in Cyprus to adopt similar socially responsible practices. And this is why we are presenting this yesterday and today to promote social responsibility to everybody, because we need more effort to succeed. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. And I'm looking forward to watch and hear out the rest of the speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your insightful presentation, Patricios. Now we'll give the floor to Sandra. Sorry, no. Actually, we have foreseen to show the video in between the presentations because Sandra was afraid that she would not be able to join on time. So maybe we show now the video and then we give the floor to Sandra, who is already here with us. So as we told you at the beginning,
I'm here.
We know, Sandra, but we had originally foreseen sure whether you would be here exactly on time. We had put here the video, and it's just a couple of minutes before your presentation, if that's okay for you.
Okay.
So as we mentioned at the beginning, this is the first time that this video is being shown. So we hope you enjoy this video, and we look forward to your feedback.
Welcome! Today we explore the power of Socially Responsible Public Procurement, SRPP, which asks buyers to consider not just price, but how products or services are produced, sourced, and delivered. In 2014, the EU updated its public procurement frameworks, making procedures simpler and rules more flexible. These changes fostered the inclusion of social criteria into public procurement in member states. Why should the public sector buy social? Using public funds strategically can help public authorities achieve social and ethical benefits. Specific criteria thresholds and key performance indicators can promote social inclusion, decent work, gender equality, and compliance with labor rights, including better employability for persons with disabilities. A recent example of SRPP in action is the Paris 2024 Social Charter. This charter emphasizes social considerations in public procurement. For instance, the organization responsible for delivering Olympic and Paralympic venues, Solidio, reserved 25% of contract values for SMEs and social economy actors. Additionally, they dedicated 10% working hours to those excluded from the labor market, promoting social inclusion and boosting employment. SRPP also prioritizes transparent supply chains, strategic autonomy, and fair trade and green products. By using public money strategically, we can achieve broader societal goals. In Ireland, for instance, the Community Benefit Clause mandates certain requirements for public contracts. Specifically, it requires bidders to employ trainees or newcomers to the labor market. This promotes employment and training opportunities for young people and the long-term unemployed. This clause ensures public contracts contribute positively to local communities in economic, social, and environmental terms. Monitoring and assessing the effectiveness of social criteria in public procurement is crucial to ensure these initiatives deliver the intended benefits. Currently, the progress of SRPP varies among EU member states. Several local and regional authorities recognize the power of strategic social public procurement. In the Netherlands, for instance, social return on investment, a framework for measuring social, environmental, and economic value, is widely adopted. Unlike traditional financial metrics, this approach considers broader impacts on stakeholders, quantifying the social value generated by investments to measure the economic value of the social effects produced by SRPP. How can procurement authorities improve their approach to SRPP implementation and measurement? To fully harness the benefits of procurement, the authorities can adopt tools to measure and enhance impact, such as implementing standardized monitoring frameworks to track, analyze, and report social outcomes. Impact measurement entails the definition of clear indicators and of official guidelines to foster a uniform approach to assess social impact in public procurement. All in all, these measures enable centralized monitoring to understand the overall impact of public procurement on social policies. Building the capacity of procurement staff through SRPP-specific training is essential, not only for central or large buyers, but also for those at regional or local levels. Capacity building supports effective implementation and monitoring of social criteria according to national norms and policy priorities. Adopting a comply or explain principle for social clauses can help collect valuable information on why criteria are not applied or are difficult to implement, tailoring policy and procurement guidelines for better alignment with social goals. Member states and procurement authorities are encouraged to embrace digitalization and e-procurement solutions as promoted by the EU to enhance efficiency and transparency, allowing for accurate and faster assessments. To make procurement a driver for good, SRPP is strategic, and so is the monitoring of its impact. Public authorities and procurers are encouraged to adopt to these practices to foster a more sustainable and inclusive world, ensure value for money, and drive positive social outcomes through continuous improvement and effective measurement. For more information, consult the We Buy Social EU initiative and other relevant EU publications. Together, let's make a significant difference through socially responsible public procurement.
And now, yes, Sandra Guillemin, we look forward to hearing your presentation. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So I'm in charge of social economy in the city of Strasbourg and the Euro Metropole. So first of all, I will talk about our framework. In France, all local authorities will, with purchases of over 100 million required to implement a socially and ecologically responsible purchasing scheme. This threshold has been lowered to 50 million in 2022. The SPASA, this is the name of this program, defines social, that means social and professional integration of disabled or disadvantaged workers, and environmental purchasing policy objectives, as well as implementation and monitoring procedures. It also contributes to the promotion of a circular economy. Our SPASA in Strasbourg was co-constructed with social economy players. The city and the Eurometropole of Strasbourg are pursuing several objectives that you can read in the PowerPoint. Put ethics at the heart of purchasing. You can have the other slide, please. Our objectives, put ethics at the heart of purchasing, so create a relationship of trust between buyers and companies based on shared ethical rules, to develop the economic performance of purchasing, so use purchasing as a level for controlling public spending and professionalize buyers. So we can meet together to do that, and to optimize public procurement, so conclude contracts that are secure for both parties and guarantee the continuity of public services, and then increase the use of sustainable development in public procurement. So that is to introduce more social, environmental, and fair trade clauses into contracts, while ensuring that they remain sustainable for businesses. At the same time, an approach based on sustainable development goals has been put in place, and each SPASA measure includes a reference to its contribution to the sustainable development goals, and then we can present it always. So all local authorities have put in place a systematic process. When I say all local authorities, that is the city of Strasbourg and the Eurometropolis. And the Eurometropolis, it's all the cities around Strasbourg, and there are 33. Our local authorities have put in place a systematic process for studying public procurement contracts with the aim of assessing whether a given contract can include a social or an environmental clauses. So we have a facilitator in our region, and this is an expert in both social and environmental clauses, and it can help public civil servants study whether their contracts can include them, because as civil servants, we are not specialists of that. Then we can say that social and as a result that social and environmental clauses in public procurement contracts have a major impact in Strasbourg. Social clauses are present in 23% of our local authorities' public procurement contracts. This represents 483,442 hours of integration, including 4,580 hours of training for people on integration schemes, giving a total of 486 beneficiaries, 24% of whom live in a priority urban district of Strasbourg, and over 250 people back into employment. For the environmental clauses, they are in place in 41% of the local authorities' public procurement contracts. To support the local autonomy, an indicator that we have in Strasbourg shows that 70% of public procurement contracts were awarded to SMEs and 20% to local companies. The volume of purchases going to social economy amounts to also 18 million euros. Beyond that, we are exploring and experimenting. I will present two examples. The first example is reuse purchasing at the Haute-Pierre businesses incubators. Haute-Pierre is the district of Strasbourg, and the Eurometropole sought and succeeded in awarding a public contract for the purchase of second-hand products. Not a simple matter, given the rules governing public procurement, which requires competitive tendering on the basis of specifications defining the product to be purchased. However, the characteristic of second-hand products is that they are not similar and therefore cannot be compared in a catalogue, and that the second-hand market does not allow products to be reserved. An experiment was carried out to change the furniture at the Haute-Pierre business incubator as an emblematic site for entrepreneurship in Strasbourg. The second-hand equipment purchased from Emmaüs and Envie in particular was customized by an interior designer and cost 1,489 euro. The contract required the creation of a specific work unity that we call a functional unit, which had to list purchase family by purchase family, like chair family, table family, all the supplies and services required to carry out the contract, with the obligation that each purchase family be less than 4,000 euro and that the total contract amount be less than 90,000 euro. This contract not only complied with the French Public Procurement Code, but also result in saving of 67% compared with new furniture. With the intervention of the interior designers, the saving was reduced to 12%, but users were very satisfied, and the saving in materials with a definite environmental impact are quite real, and the result quite simply beautiful. That was the first example, and for another example is the reserved market for the European social economy event that called the Social Economy, the Future of Europe in 2022. This European event, organized by Strasbourg in co-construction with all the European institutions interested in the social economy and all the European networks, gave rise to the drafting of a contract reserved for integration through economic activity and disability structures. It was the catering contract for the two lunches held during this event, during two days, a very large contract with many meals to be produced. But opposite, social economy caterers no longer had the space of our staff to cater for 2 times 1,400 people. And they had not yet recovered from the COVID crisis and were therefore weakened. The challenge was therefore considerable, and it was only a matter of time before they failed to respond, rendering the contract unsuccessful. All the more so as the organizations knew little about each other and had never worked together before. Their regional federation, known as the Regional Union of Economic Integration Structure of Alsace, helped them by getting them around the table and they responded to the contract. The player thus learned to work together and even set up a working group to continue the exchanges afterwards. This reserved market has brought about a new way of working between these players who now know how to work together to respond to markets and offer diverse solutions. Some of them are even in the process of joining forces to plan the creation of an ethical solidarity-based food court in Strasbourg. This public contract for this event enabled 768 hours of integration for disability people and 256 hours of training to be carried out for vulnerable groups. Thank you for your attention. This was the second example.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for joining and for sharing with us these experiences. We hope that both the experiences that you shared and that Patricius shared are going to inspire even further our audience on how to implement, in practical terms, socially responsible public procurement. Thank you very much. And now we have 10 minutes before our webinar comes to an end. So we would like to share with you some recommendations for developing social impact measurement policies in public procurement. First of all, we would like to wrap up the challenges and enablers that we could find based on our analysis. So we see that the lowest price criterion is actually widely used. And these results, of course, in missed opportunities for fair wages, employment for disadvantaged groups, and sustainability. And in some cases, it overlooks social impact. As Claudio mentioned during his presentation of the results of our study, of testing the framework, there is a concentration of higher social impacts in service-related contracts, whereas it is less evident for goods and infrastructure contracts. We also noticed that the social clauses that are being used, they remain quite vague and modest in terms of the requirements that are set. And these results, unfortunately, in limited social impact. And finally, we also found that there was a lack of monitoring mechanisms, which is also related to one of the questions that we got. And this makes it difficult to really assess the true effectiveness of social objectives. On the other hand, there are also enablers that can help foster social impact. And these include reserved contracts for social enterprises, which encourages the participation of disadvantaged groups, and promotes social inclusion and economic empowerment. The use of contractual performance clauses and award criteria to make sure that there is robust adherence to labor laws, fair wages, and sustainability, and also holding contractors accountable for social responsibilities. The fact that there are structured approaches to achieving social objectives, it's also important. And here we put an example of social return on investment. And finally, we also observed that combining environmental and social requirements enhances the overall impact of procurement and ensures that suppliers address a broader range of societal challenges. Now, if we look closely into the recommendations to move forward, it is important that we follow a holistic approach to SRPP, so to integrate all aspects for better social performance, and to foster collaboration between different actors. This is indeed important. We also recommend to elevate socially responsible public procurement by implementing strategic policies to enhance social considerations and to prioritize high impact procurement procedures. Another important aspect that we have noticed, because we found different approaches across member states, is that there is a need for standardization. So it would be important that we adopt at EU level uniform standards for employment conditions and sustainability, which also ensures then compliance and monitoring. Building on these, we also recommend that there is a comprehensive monitoring and reporting by establishing protocols for audits and reporting of social impact, and also favoring interoperability and the creation of a centralized database for analysis and transparency. Also related to these, that we have also mentioned, is there is a problem of data quality. So it would be important that there is an enhancement of the data that is available in TED in relation to public procurement documentation that is made available, and also to conduct regular audits and independent assessments. And then finally, we also recommend that this framework that we have put forward, it's a first attempt. So it can be further expanded to make sure that it starts being used and also improved throughout time, and also to foster its use. So for that, we would recommend that there is a creation of reporting templates, compliance checklists, and also reporting protocols to be used. Also to organize pilot programs by public procurement authorities to really understand how it can be further enhanced, and to foster experience exchange and promote awareness raising in relation to socially responsible public procurement. These are our recommendations that we have put forward in relation to the findings of our study. And now I would give the floor to Lois, so that he can share with us some concluding remarks regarding the study and the presentation that we have shared today. Back to you, Lois.
Okay. Thank you. So first of all, thank you to our speakers, Patricia's Fantas. It was very interesting to get to know more about your concrete examples, and also thank you to Katarina, Claudio, Julia, for all your work. Yeah, so I just wanted to take this opportunity also to clarify a bit about this framework that has been conducted. First was the top exercise.
Lois, we cannot hear you well. I don't know if it's my connection.
Okay.
Yeah, I was also noticing the same, Lois. Maybe there is a problem with the microphone.
Is it better? No.
No.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello now? No?
Yes, much better. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for letting me know. So yeah, I was just mentioning that about this framework that was created. Of course, it was like a tough exercise. Let's say try to condense in these 15 minutes all the work that has been carried out throughout these months. But just so you have like a better idea, because I saw like a lot of questions on this. About how the scores were assigned to each public procurement procedure. So each indicator has a series of sub-indicators, and for each sub-indicators, there's like this, let's say 0 to 5 scale, and it's not just, let's say, about if a specific tender mentions that they will, for instance, promote inclusion of disadvantaged workers, but there's like this whole 1 or 0 to 5 scale, trying to see how detailed this is, how much into detail they'll go, and the highest scores, let's say, are given to those procedures that also include, for instance, monitoring mechanisms, so to make sure that this is achieved, right? As I said, this is like a framework that that it's also useful to think in terms of what social considerations can be included from these 4 different angles, let's say. And if we go to the next slide, please, just to conclude a bit with the next steps. We will see that we are just finalizing the study. There are just a couple of details that we are finalizing, and the idea would be to try to, of course, make this available, the whole study, as well as the video, the infographics. You will receive after this webinar let's say a thank you email, and then you will find some resources and some places in which this has been have been already published. And then we also have a next webinar on the 5th of December that will have a very similar structure to this one, but we will have in that case 2 different speakers, Gianpaolo Celito from the Italian National Anti-Corruption Authority, and also René Van Tuyl, that will help us to understand more this social return on investment framework that they are using in the Netherlands. So that's all from our side, and yeah, I thank you, all of you and all the participants for being here. And I don't know if Catarina or Claudio want to say anything else.
No, just a thank you, and also a thank you to the whole team who has been collaborating in this study. This is a study that is being conducted by PwC and also ICLEI. And thank you very much for participating in this webinar. It was great to have more than 100 people together with us today. So we do hope that you found this webinar insightful, and we will also follow up with an email with additional resources. So thank you very much for your time, and we hope that this was useful to you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.